Joining our coverage, the person I always want to talk to, and if I don't get to talk to him, I quote him, gun safety advocate Fred Guttenberg. His daughter Jamie was killed in the Parkland school shooting. He is the co-author of a new book. It's not out yet, but it's amazing. American Carnage, Shattering the Myths That Fuel Gun Violence. You can pre-order it. Fred Guttenberg, what is going through your mind right now? I mean, they're like physical blows now. You get the alerts on your phone, and it is almost a sure thing when it's the middle of the night that it's a mass shooting now.
And only when there's people who die. Because in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I think a day or two ago, there was a mass shooting where 12 people were injured. We don't hear about it, but it happened.
True.
So what's going through my mind is pure anger at those who lied to this country for a really extended time and put us in this place where we are now. Figuring out why we're here today actually isn't hard. You know, Nicolle, in a few weeks, it's going to be 5 years since Jamie was killed. When she was killed, there were 300 million weapons on the streets of America. 5 years later, we're over 400 million plus ghost guns. And we're there because during the last administration, COVID was used as a gun sales bonanza when they kept gun stores open as essential businesses. So it's not surprising to say, why are we here today? The gun industry has used the lies and politicians who have embraced these lies. And I'll give you a few examples. Immediately following Sandy Hook, their response was, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. They use Sandy Hook to sell weapons. We've also heard over the past 10 years in Sandy Hook, slippery slope. Anything you want to do about reducing gun violence is going to put you on a slippery slope, they said. The problem is we've been on a slippery slope because we've done nothing or we've done bad policy. More guns, like I said, in the past 5 years alone, over 100 million, more ammunition, more dangerous weaponry have been put into the hands of a minority of this population, and many of those end up in the hands of people who intend harm. We've been on a slippery slope. Looking at what's happening this week should surprise nobody.
Fred, I think all the time about this generation of kids who, as Cory Booker said, have been through more active shooting drills than fire drills. My son is one of them, who's very aware of mass shootings happening in schools. Yeah. We're raising a generation of kids that know that no place is immune. There's really no, church, there have been mass shootings at churches, temples, there have been mass shootings at temples, elementary schools, there have been mass shootings at elementary, no concerts, restaurants, everywhere. And I wonder what you think about, and I know Senator Chris Murphy is your friend. I know you have friends on both sides of the aisle in the policymaking arena. But I wonder what you think of the strategy that the gun lobby is so extreme. So their position is, way over here on the right. And then if you want to negotiate, you have to come here. So there's never anything actually equal to absolute, easier to buy a gun than fruit punch. So you're just negotiating over here. And what you get is still so close to extreme that you leave out the 85% of Americans that want to go a whole lot more in this direction toward making the country safer. What would your sort of prescriptive analysis be of where the debate should start?
Well, first, I'll just say I am thankful to people like Senator Murphy and the others who got legislation done a few months ago for this president who is committed to dealing with gun violence in America. But you're 100% right, Nicolle. There is a segment of our political reality. You have an entire party who's just no. That's who they are. They're just no. And they're no based on a lie. They are not interested. They talk right to life. My daughter had a right to life. The people killed this week had a right to life. They talk freedom. You don't have freedom from the grave. Okay, my daughter doesn't have freedom from the grave. And so here's what I would say. Call them the liars that they are. Stop listening to them. And if they refuse to do the right thing, do what we've done in the past 3 elections and fire more of them. Because of gerrymandering, the House flipped this cycle. but we also elected more gun safety people. And let's just keep doing that. You look at Florida, which was a nightmare in the elections, and yet we elected Jared Moskowitz and we elected Maxwell Frost, gun safety champions. Dan Goldman, your friend for the show, from New York, a gun safety champion. Let's keep electing more people like that, because the truth is, we do not need to live this way in this country. We just don't, and we can fix this.
Fred, you find hope in these sort of hopeless and bleak moments, and I always have to try to pull out of you where that's coming from and how you've turned. I'm just in awe of you, and I can barely keep from crying looking at that's your daughter behind you, right, dancing, that picture. I mean, how do you? I know you do it to honor her, but what is the how? You know, how do you get up and sort of stay optimistic that things can change, that we don't live like this forever?
Because every day I think of someone who I won't meet because they weren't a victim of gun violence, and that keeps me going. I don't want my son, who didn't die that day in the shooting, to grow up in a world where he has to worry about kids he might bring into this world. And the truth is, I've seen so much of the good we've done this year. You know, the legislation we passed a few months ago is going to make a meaningful difference, but it's going to take time to bend that curve. Yeah. Having a real director of the ATF, which we now do, Steve Dettelbach is a wonderful guy, and he's going to do a great job. It's a start, but now we need to fund the ATF. Because, I mean, I have hope from looking at the things we can do to still fix this and to save lives. We're not going to get rid of gun violence, but we can lower the gun violence death rate. And as long as there are people who are willing to work on that, I will keep working with them.
I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you know, we have seen the force of this as a political issue. And you're right. There are people who it wasn't just a message. This was what their candidacies were about. You see that with the overturning of Roe. I mean, do you really see a future where these become sort of the two central, you know, sort of, and I know you tie it to democracy all the time, too. But do you see this becoming sort of a new coalition, that freedom doesn't mean that you can wield your gun if it means your daughter wasn't free to have the rest of her life?
100%. Listen, I live in a state where a governor talks about Florida as a freedom state. And it's just the ultimate lie. OK, and he is a liar. OK, because while he says things like that, he's also talking about passing permitless carry, which will make us more dangerous. It will put more people in the grave. That's not a freedom state. And I think smart, reasonable people who care about freedom, who care about safety, who care about choice, are going to work together to be the coalition to push back against it. Look at the young kids. Look at the people we're electing right now. And let's keep doing more of that. And let's show up and vote. Voting solves problems.
It does. It just takes a while. Frank Guttenberg, for your perspective and your wisdom and for having these conversations at all. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicolle.